myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on that.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. It is Friday night and it is the Fab Four night, and it's another pre-record, I'm afraid. So those of you in the chat will have to talk amongst yourselves. The last pre-record for a while though, because I will be back in business next Friday. So we're back live next Friday, but this is a pre-record, and I've just got to say well done to England and Wales for getting through to the next stages of the Euros. I know England's bored everybody to death. Wales has been slightly better to watch, but we're through, top of the group, haven't conceded any goals. And last night's show was Super Mac, where he was pretty down on England. I'm still confident we'll beat the Germans, but I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that during the programme. All I've got to say to Scotland is Cheerios. Sorry to any Scottish viewers, I couldn't resist that. I was sent that, and I was sent that. Keith Patterson's he is murder on this WhatsApp thing. You ever look at stuff and wonder how it got there? And there's Scotland in the Euros. So that's it. As I say, apologies to Scottish fans. I've got to be honest. It was still good to watch it, and John Carver and Steve Clark deserve massive praise for getting them to their first tournament for many years, and I'm sure they'll be back on the big stage at some other point. As always, we've got all of your favourites tonight. Lookalikes, which is going to end up taking about half an hour tonight, is epic, I've got to say. Tweet of the week's pretty good, and Troll of the week's got a slightly different flavour. But as always, we've got all of your usual favourites. So, Steve, let's start with the Euros. Let's start with England. As I've said, Malcolm on last night's show was, he's bored to death. And I mean, I've got to be honest, it is boring football England have played. But do we just twist on 21 as England fans? Because we're finished top of the group. We haven't conceded any goals. Okay, we haven't scored countless goals like some other teams. But, you either play free-flowing football and get hammered, or you sit back, you defend, and you get your results. You get through.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, what can we say? We went into this tournament. We couldn't stop scoring goals. We were leaking them at the back. Southgate's taking a hard look at what needed to be done I'm hoping in the first 3 games, just to get us to the next stage, and thought if we can just tighten up the back, we can take a 1-0 win here, 1-0 win there. We've done, we finished top of the group. We've done okay. We're through. That's the success that was the benchmark. Get through to the next round. It actually opens up as well. That I looked at it and I thought, we could finish second in this group. We could get a team that could really be on top form and not get any further. But we finished top of the group, and that side of the group now suddenly opens up quite well. He's done well to tighten us up at the back and not conceding goals. Yes, it's taken some of the flair play away from the flair players, and especially with Harry Kane. He's not firing on all cylinders. I think that's more to do with the formation and the style that we've got than it is Harry Kane himself, because I think we've all seen Harry Kane during the season where he's been just banging goals in for fun. So I'm looking forward to next week. I'm sure we'll get, as we go through the show, we'll talk about the opposition. We'll talk about the Germans, but just taking us into this stage, it's optimism. I've got to show a little bit of optimism. It's a 90-minute game. I'm using all the cliches already. I've got the Steve Bruce little book out here. That he borrowed from Southgate, and I'm going through it and etc. But hey, bring them on. The Germans didn't look that good, did they? And let's see where this competition takes us now, Steve.
Yeah, exactly, Mitch. It's been a cracking tournament, but England are through. But it just seems to me there's a lot of negativity surrounding this particular England squad.
I think 2 of those games would have been very different if we hadn't hit the post in the early minutes. Yeah, two of those games were very much on top in the first 15 minutes of the game and hit the post twice. And I think in both instances, if those balls had gone in, I think you'd have been looking at 2 different games. The Kane problem's the one for me that stands out. He's got players around him who are used to playing with a false 9 who drops in and off and lets them come in behind. And you're seeing Harry Kane playing on the halfway line, sometimes with his back to goal. That's not Harry Kane's natural game. And I think that's where you've got somebody, he's asking him to play a role in the system that he doesn't do week in, week out at Spurs. So there's a square, they've got a circle they've got to square, really, is what to do with Kane in that role. Or what do they do with the support players around them to get them playing in a way that suits having Kane there as their centre forward, which they're maybe not used to week in, week out in the formations they play. And particularly the lads from Man City, you know, it's unusual to see Kane in some of the positions he's getting the ball and ending up playing in the pitch. And I think that then reflects not so well on Kane, and he's obviously not banging them in for fun because he's not in the position to bang them in, or he's not getting the balls that he's used to getting that he gets at Spurs. But overall, can you really be upset with top of the group? Don't think so. You know, that's tournament football. You got to remember, Portugal won it once by drawing the first 3 games and coming out of the group as one of the 3rd best countries. So nothing's cut and dried. Germany have been at best patchy for me. I don't think they were terribly good against France and could have got a hiding, but did well defensively. They then really pulled something out the hat against Portugal, but then against Hungary last night, was it? They looked quite ordinary, really. So I don't think there's much to fear. This isn't a Klinsmann, Voller, you know, type Germany we're playing against. Yeah. So, and as Steve again rightly says, then the way the fixtures land after that, if you get through to the next round, that side of the group's the side of the group to be in, really.
Yeah. Of course it is. Keith, I mean, you know, we're through and we've got Germany, and could have been worse, I think. Germany are rebuilding, really. I don't think it's going to be a free-flowing game, but, I mean, what's your take on England's qualification?
I think Mitch is at a great point. He just said there, he says if that goal had gone in, I mean, I was stood the hard with Mad Mick when that ball hit the post. And it didn't just hit the post, it fairly come off the post in the first game against Croatia. It smashed in the post. The next one, that header, you know, I mean, like, how much did that, you know, for me, it was a goal all day. And that come banging back out. And as Mitch says, put them goals in and it becomes a different game. We get different possession. We play with more confidence. We have more optimism. And in games when you're 1-0 up, but it would have been 2. And I'm, you know, it's damn good luck when you smash the woodwork like that. But the things that you've got to talk about, you've all mentioned Harry Kane. Like, I can't let my mind drift away. I think this Euros has convinced me. I love England. I'm desperate for them to win. You know, a big, like I am the dreamer. I am the bloke who's thinking to myself, well, I'm sort of, my brain's thinking, beat the Germans, semi-final, final at Wembley, you know, it's done deal. But like, and then you think that my brain then goes to the takeover. But what I've been thinking through here is I thought, God, if the takeover went through and somebody told us you're paying 120 million for Harry Kane, I'd be like, I'll be thinking who's supplying the bullets. So normally, see, when we got Shearer, I wasn't bothered. I thought, I'll just give him the ball or put him on the pitch and he'll score. I think players are like that. I think there's still footballers like that. And when I see Ronaldo on there, I see that kid. I mean, look at the age of him. But he's just supreme. He's like an athlete. And he just has menace written all over him. And he has, I'm going to do you written all over him. So when I see Ronaldo, I think he's got something special about him. And there's footballers can do that. But, you know, when you talk about these players, like we are an England side and we've got some good strikers. But somebody asked a question here on Twitter. They said, how many of the German people get our team and vice versa? And when I think of Harry Kane, 120 million, I ask questions like, what's Mbappe worth? And what's you know, other people worth who's got more youth and more pace and less injuries on the side? Do I think he's played the right team? No. I think there's been times when I think it's more tactics or more, and I think the players have some of this responsibility. When I've watched England play, and especially against Scotland, and think of the games, Croatia, I'd go over to 1,200 people on the drink, like everybody's playing England because you're going to win the Euros again. Scotland, it's more nervy because you want to beat Scotland, and I watched that at the pub. And then for the last game, it was a school night. We'd already qualified, and you just looked around, and everyone was just like you say, they're much lower. But I do believe that against Scotland, I said, why? They just kept knocking the ball backwards. There just was so much side negativity. There was so lack of urgency for me that I didn't get excited by it. Towards the end, I've got a lot of Scottish mates who give me jip. But look, towards the end, I said, you lads wanted that little bit more. I know they were hanging on because the draw was their cup final. But at the same time, I really felt that at the end, you were hanging on. I've watched other teams in the Euros. You talk about the Euros and Germany, I think hitty missy. You talk about Portugal, they've just got through. They still have some great players and they still have a great side. But you see sides like Denmark, who I put that on the night, and they were in control. You know what I mean? They were teams, and you other teams that I don't know. I tipped Holland from the start, and Steve Hasty tipped Italy. He didn't. I think he mentioned them later on. I think he saw they were good, and then Steve Hasty slapped Italy on his hand of the bets. But I don't see it's. But you know what it is? I think Italy is going to take some beating, and I've got to say, Holland are a fancied side, but they score like hell, and I don't think England at the minute could outscore Holland, and I'm like Steve Wraith. I think we'll beat Germany, and I'll dream of a semi-final and final, but. Can we beat Belgium? Can we beat Holland? Can we beat Spain? Can we beat France? What can we mark Ronaldo? So I don't know. I'm a bit like the nation. I'm a little bit flat, and I guess it's more to do with when the game kicks off, what we do with the ball. I just, I thought when Grealish knocked that ball over the other night, I just thought, he's head and shoulders above everybody. He just made it look dead easy, and he just flicked that ball over, knocked it in. I thought, wow. Men and boys, he just looked that good, but I just don't think I don't think we've done that enough. I don't think we have the X factor to thing. But I pray we do, and I'll be screaming and I'll be drunk if we do. But personally, I've top of the group, like you say, yes, good, but couldn't. I say this with the greatest respect. I've got a lot of mates up there. Couldn't beat Scotland at Wembley. How well, lads. That's a hard working Scottish side, but not a good or a great Scottish side. We should have hammered them.
I think that was just the cautious approach that Southgate's taken on. And don't jump your guns, man, Keith, because don't forget, after we played Germany, there's a quarter final before we get the semi-final.
That's right. But my brain's gone. If you beat the Germans, we're going to take the whole lot.
Yeah, I think what you said there was interesting about Harry Kane, because you mentioned Shearer, and with Shearer and with a lot of top class players like Ronaldo as well, they create their own goals. But what we've seen is that Kane obviously has to have people to create goals for him. He has to have people who are making the moves and pulling the ball back. And I agree with Mitch entirely in what you were saying, Mitch, about the three in the midfield. You've got Sterling, you've got Mount, and you've got Foden. And all play with false nines. They're touch players. They're moving out, and that's something that Kane's not used to. Kane's used to people who are flying down the wing. He's used to players with pace like Son, who are getting the ball in lovely positions and then just playing him in or pulling the ball back for him. So it's a totally different game that we're expecting to play. And maybe that's what we've got with Southgate is he's caught between a rock and a hard place. He's tightened up the defence. Everybody's insisting that there should have been a place for Foden because he's a new Paul Gascoigne. Then it was there has to be a place for Grealish. Then you've got the Southern press who are demanding that Mount is always playing. You got a Manchester press who think that Sterling, even though he hasn't had the best of seasons, but Sterling's scoring goals. So the added pressure, you've got to find a place for him. So that only leaves you two holding midfield players, doesn't it? And he insists on playing the holding too. He insists on playing Rice, and he's played Phillips. Phillips in a more advanced role in the first game, but certainly a defensive role in the second game, and for my mind, most of the third game. Once Henderson came on, I thought we saw Phillips playing in a more advanced position. But it didn't do Harry Kane any good. We still were not providing the ammunition for him. And it's a case of what he does next. How is he going to make those slight adjustments? Is he gonna lose Foden? Where does Saka come in? You've still got Sancho and Bellingham, and we're playing the Germans. So there you've got two players who are used to playing German football. They're used to the majority of that German team. Some of them are club mates, both at Dortmund and so this is what those players are about. And it might be that he brought both of them in specifically to do a job if we end up playing the Germans. Who knows? Only Gareth Southgate, I suppose, and maybe he's Jonesy as well. Maybe he knows as well. Maybe that's why he was brought in. I don't know, but it's a strange situation that we're in. But it's going to be a good Tuesday night because it's the Germans. We're playing the Germans. That's what lift up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll look forward to that. Lots of relevant stuff come in via the tweet of the week, which we'll look at a little bit later with regards to the Euros. And thanks to everybody for sending in all of those stuff. Let's talk Takeover, because I know a lot of people do tune in for a bit of an update on that. And Steve, we'll stick with you for now. It's been a very quiet week. We have seen a little bit of traction come from Burnsy, who's quite well known amongst Newcastle fans on Twitter, and getting people wound up. There's been also a couple of the shall we say more radical Twitter accounts out there which have managed to get some of our fan bases knickers in a twist or underpants in a twist, whatever they wear, and it's become a bit of a playground again, because people are still getting wound up by a non-event at the moment, and it's because it's embroiled in legalities, Steve. But once again, the Twitter sphere hasn't been a pleasant place, and there's been a lot of backbiting amongst Newcastle fans due to certain accounts putting stuff out there.
Yeah, and I think if anybody's got any sense, they'll look at those accounts and go, wind up merchants, they've done it again, they've got you wound up, exactly. Move on, forget about them. Ignore the wind up merchants. You know who they are, you know the people, you Definitely. Know what they're putting out. Every single time people fall for it. Yeah. And these guys are reveling in it. They're creating their own little cult, for want of a better word, out of what they're up to, And I don't know why they're doing it. I honestly don't know why they're doing it, because it's showing them up, because they must know that the stuff that they're making up is going to make them out to look fools, unless they genuinely believe that something is gonna, and it's on a 24-hour rolling news type of basis, that eventually they're gonna land on that particular 24. But they've been doing this for 6 or 7. I was going to say weeks. Some of them have been doing it for 6 or 7 months now, and it's just crazy. I mean,
some of these accounts, Steve, they're humorous to a degree. If you know who they are, then you soon become wise to them. But some people, unfortunately, don't realise. They might only dot onto Twitter for takeover updates, and when they see something put out as we saw this week, which to any casual observer of Twitter, it has a bit of credence, and then that's what leads to the social media interaction on there. I think it's just unfortunate. It's just a little bit of naivety on behalf of some people who get sucked in.
Well, there's a naivety, but it's annoying. It's annoying for people, It annoys me because it means that my timeline gets filled with people asking me. I get DMs, asking, "Have you heard anything? Have you heard it? Have you seen this?" I get phone calls. I'm getting messages. What do you know if there's anything about this? Anything about that? And I just turn around and go, well, put it this way: if there really is an embargo till 10:30, you've only got to wait till 10:30. When it gets to 10:35, and nothing's
Things
happened,
happened.
you can go to bed.
Well, look, I know Burnsy was great to come on Think Before You Tweet. Now, Burnsy and I have got a similar interest in UFOs. I've studied UFOs myself. I think there's some fascination in that, and I know it's something he's had the mick taken out of him for. But Burnsy, we've decided, me and John from QTech, courtesy of Daz and Martin from Loaded Football, to come up with a T-shirt for the food bank. So this is this week's one-off T-shirt. It's an NUFC Matters Ben It's Imminent T-shirt. Believe in Ben. There he is, the Takeover alien. So that is the latest food bank T-shirt. So if you go to @Steve Wraith on Twitter, you will be able to bid for that this week. Ben, I hope you're going to make some kind of considerable effort to get some money in for the food bank. And it's all light-hearted, Ben. It's not a dig, but that is our T-shirt for this week. It's a one-off, and I think that would suit you down to the ground, Burnsy. So get your bid in, mate, and make sure you circulate it on your Twitter. And listen, he's got his own views. He's clearly got his own contacts. It's whether you believe him or not, and that is open to conjecture for those who want to.
It's whether his contacts are real.
Well, this is it, Mitch. You've watched it all, I'm sure, from the sidelines, mate. And listen, I've met the lad. I know him personally. He was great to come on the Think Before You Tweet campaign, documentary, and he had an issue with Ian Hannon. Ian Hannon and him both had an exchange of views. You can find it on Amazon. We're still donating to a very good cause on there if you want to go and download it. But look, I'm not really aiming this at Burnsy today. It's other accounts. There's one or two other accounts which I'm not going to name, but they've come out and they've had a bit of fun in their eyes. And unfortunately, there's always collateral damage, as I said, because people are getting sucked in by it.
They should probe their contacts harder, probably. Anyway,
is that a medical thing?
Probably. Anyway, look. The problem I have with it is it preys on the desperation. There's a desperation for it to happen. Mm-hmm. There's a desperation for everybody to get up one day and it's done. And there's a desperation to find out every last detail possible that may give us a clue as to what's going on, which is why we've got the plane spotters, which is why we've got people who can produce all sorts of crazy info that at one time I probably wouldn't have had a clue how to find it out, and now it seems to be within the fan base we've got people who can find information out left, right, and centre, and some of it does stack up on occasion, and that's the most amazing bit. The time involved is killing everyone and everything. That's why people, when there was talk about Rafa going to Everton, the time is the killer, because at the end of the day, can we really expect Rafa to wait around as ad infinitum for something to break when we've got no clue when it's actually going to break? As long as the Premier League try to kick everything into the long grass as long as possible, and that's what they've been doing, make no mistake about that, the time was always going to be the killer on this one, because it's not like there was a necessarily set time frame. But now we do have certain dates thrown out there because there's a legal time frame for a lot of this. But then people are too keen to read into dates on that, thinking that disclosure is going to mean everybody's going to know everything on a certain day. That's not how it works and never would be. And then that creates this excitement that inevitably leads to disappointment. And people having a bit of fun. Look at it's got to the point where there's certain things you can't do on social media anymore. You can't always have a little bit of a laugh because everything gets read into far too much. Certainly, like I said the other week, tweeting out the lyrics to Grandmaster Flash's White Lines, and people took that as some sort of sign that something was happening with a takeover. And you talk about think before you tweet. I genuinely do sometimes. And the amount of times I've written something out in the tweet, and I've just thought, nah, it's going to create a furore that's not fair. And so you just think, right, I'm not bother. And it's taking the edge off of that side of social media for me. But I understand it. I get it, because there's this clamour for it to happen. Because we've been in limbo now for a good while, and a lot of the fans in a much bigger limbo than us, because at least we are privileged enough to speak to certain people in certain places, and blessed with that. And so our limbo is not quite the living hell that certain people's limbo is. I'm quite sure of that, because it's created so much angst, and it's also all adding to these little cracks and divisions and wounds within the fan base. That means people are so quick to turn on each other, sometimes over something so ridiculous and so irrelevant that it should just either be laughed at and ignored, or just plain ignored. But people can't help themselves, because there's so much tension wrapped up in the timing and the delay in timing of all of this. It's and that's what irks me when people sort of play on that. I don't mind a bit of fun, dear me. Saw some of the stuff again, go back to Skunkers when I was on Skunkers, some of the stuff we bloody did, Jesus. Yes, I like a little bit of internet shenanigans. That's not a problem at all to me. But within the takeover now, it's become so angst-ridden, it's difficult to do anything without it being taken one way or the other.
Keith, it's a playground Twitter which you've grown to get used to. I've had to get used to since you put your head above the parapet with NCSL. But it has been another one of those roller coaster weeks, hasn't it? I mean, I've kept out of it, and I've deliberately kept out of it for months now. I haven't got sucked in, but I have watched a little bit of the interaction, and the stuff midweek with this account that put the well worded stuff out about this 10:30 deadline has been done many times before by the same account, and it just adds it creates an issue, though. It creates an issue. Like Steve said, he got inundated with DMs and inboxes, and I'm sure you had the same, Keith.
If Steve's been inundated, you can imagine what mine's been like. It's been mental. And I've spoken to Steve Acey today, and I'll call Steve Acey 3 times a week, or sometimes every day, but sometimes there's always a call every week. It's like an hour long, which is catch up, and we just talk about what's going on, what's out there. And I think what you're gonna do tonight is what I want to do tonight is because people see a pre-record, sometimes they don't expect much. So what I want to do is just talk blunt and talk straight, because I've come into this as a bloke who didn't want to get involved, and now I'm in the thick of it. And so what's happening this week, for me, I'm absolutely loving what's happening, because I'm seeing people for what they're worth, and I'm seeing people for the true them. And with me, I don't have any ongoing. One bloke asked the question today: what would you lot 4 like to be if the takeover took place? You're gonna have a job at Newcastle. And I just thought, by the time I finished, I just want the takeover. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm worried. I'm worried today, because I'm watching people who I know on Twitter. I'm watching people who I know from the locality, who've got my personal number, or people that know us on a WhatsApp, and they're getting wound up. And I think it's got to stop. I think it's got to stop now, and I think you need to know what you're doing. So I'm a little bit more outspoken than most, and the account, this NG account, which I've seen, is a pile of horse shit. So if you've seen that, I
wasn't going to mention it, man.
Well, I'm saying it because that lad wants blocking by everybody. And every time you talk and chat to these trolls, just remember, them people on Twitter who talk to the trolls, you feed them. Because all they want is attention. And I'm saying to you, do it yourself and do us all a favour. When they start talking like that, just block. And if you block them to the extent where nobody's listening to them, it means so little. I watched a conversation tonight with a guy I really respect called Keith Gray, and he's been talking to a guy called Adam Telford. He's been a troll of ours for 7 months, 8 months. And he's just he's wrote tonight on Twitter that I don't want anything linking with Saudi Arabia. So you know what I say? Please buy this club, because if it gets rid of that little piece of work, I tell you what, the bid means so much more to me. So Mr. Saudi, come and buy my club, so you get rid of the likes of him. But he's on there preaching to 97% of the people what we should and shouldn't want. Now he's in the 2%, but he thinks his 2% should tell us what we want, but we're not allowed to tell him. And what's happening now is this week, the trolls are desperate. You know, the reporters have all gone quiet. And all the things I said is starting to happen. So I want to go through it. I want to use tonight. So when you put this pre-record on Friday night, you go, ooh, there's a bit in there. So
I've got to say before you start going on about that, right? That my channel, and it is my channel, gives people a platform to be able to say what they want to say. My views might be different to Keith's views. Keith has expressed his own opinion. And the reason I've got to say this, Keith, is because, you know, you brought people's names into it, you brought people's accounts into it. And that is your view, that is your expression. I don't necessarily, or the channel doesn't necessarily agree with that. I've got to say that because last Friday, when we put a pre-recorded show out, this channel was attacked. It was basically taken down by YouTube. And for a couple of hours, the channel had disappeared because it was reported. Now, because this channel does nothing wrong, and because we basically fulfill all of our arrangements with YouTube, we maintain the community standards. We don't allow, any kind of criticism, racism, homophobic stuff on this channel because we aren't that kind of, program. We adhere to all the community guidelines. However, we were hit by the trolls last week. They reported the channel, and that was it. We got a very apologetic email from YouTube to say that they were sorry after looking at it. They decided to put us back, but that's where we've got to be careful. So I will say that, Keith. No offense to you, but I have to say that it's not necessarily everyone's opinion. It's your opinion tonight on the show.
Okay.
And those people, if they wanted to come on the show, who you mentioned, more than happy to get them on and give us their opinion why they don't want the takeover. But sorry to stop you in mid-flow, Keith.
No, I appreciate respect it. When the show was took down last week, I didn't know why they'd been took down.
I'll never have any proof as to who or why. I've got a couple of ideas. It has to be said, but at the same time, it's freedom of speech from our perspective. We're allowed to say what we want, and we're attacked quite regularly on social media for our views on the takeover. But it gets back to my overall views on this are that I quite happily I understand the opposite view. I understand it. What I don't understand is the vitriolic way that it's put across on social media towards people like you, me, Mitch, and Steve, and the abhorrent way that we are constantly abused on social media. And I've blocked all of the relevant accounts that have abused me. So I have quite a quiet life on Twitter, and I don't have as much abuse. However, I do get sent by some people who are doing it out of maybe they think they're doing us a favour. But I just say to them, look, I don't really want to see screenshots of what people say about us because I don't care. And I never will care about what people think about me. I will continue to do what I do. And that's unfortunate for those people who it offends. But the simple thing you do is you don't interact, you don't watch the show, and you just move on. And I've said the same for the last 15 months. I'm not going to change, and I know you guys aren't. But look, Keith, I think you made your point quite clear. We've had so many questions. We'll put a call out for questions on Thursday. We've had so many questions, and I think what time would be best spent even answering some of the questions you've been asked. And I'm sure you've seen a few. I mean, I don't know whether you want me to go through them, but finish what you were going to say, and then we'll get on to those questions.
What I want to say is that people have a freedom of speech, and I respect it. And somebody today who was blocked for a few months came on, and he asked John at QTech, could I lift his account, which I did. And he came on today and he said, I always doubted what NCSL were about and whether you were really involved with the competition action. So I unblocked the account. We've chatted today, and he said, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I said, he said, all I wanted to do was debate the takeover from an anti-takeover point. And I said, you understand though, if somebody's working early doors on a morning and they're still going on the night, sometimes it's a full-time job pacifying people who want the takeover. So if people want the takeover, it's a lot of work actually answering all their questions. And when you've got people who don't want the takeover because politically against it, I just haven't got the time for that. So I've got quite a life like you have, Steve. I've got quite a life because I don't get wrapped into it anymore. I don't get the days I used to get. I don't get the hassle. And Steve Hasty and me spoke about it where we both got targeted. Liam's at it. And all we've done is now we've pulled out. But I think I owe it to the fans, the ones who do support us, to say that, to try and show them the difference between listening and not listening. Because this week, there's been 2 specific accounts who've gone out there, and what they're doing is, and I'm not saying they're wrong either. I mean, until 10:30, when that account went out, some people would have to wait, because when you read what's put on there, it looks like credible copy. It looks like it's well written. It could happen. This is what it is. And then at 10:30, you think, oh, it's another one. For people like you, Steve, and for you lads on here, you know the accounts and you know that they've been doing that. But for the average guy on Twitter, they don't. And so I get battered with, is this real? Is it happening? I said, no, it's not happening. It's absolutely not happening. But then there's another account gone out where you've mentioned it, Burnsy, where he put something out. And in fairness, I think in support of that lad, he wants the takeover, and I think he's under pressure because the takeover doesn't happen. And he's put something out this week which says, when it happens, I'll come back at you all. And I just think, I feel for him in the sense that if he wants to take over, I know what it's like, NCSL, being told the takeover's not going to happen and you're talking out your back end. But there's a few things you've got to just balance. And in his report, he put out, he said, there's an out-of-court offer being made to Mike Ashley, and Mike Ashley's going to use that as evidence. He's turned down an out-of-court offer, and he'll use that as evidence. And then I sat and watched that, and I thought, I wonder how long that story runs for. And I hoped it would run for days. But then there are some legal wise people on there. There's a lad called James who's on today, and he's bright as a button. And James has come on there, and he blew the gaff, because James just said, what kind of solicitor would go along to Mike Ashley and make an offer to settle a court case for hundreds of millions of pounds and not do it under confidentiality? And if he did that, this is where it's important that people tuning in on a Friday night say, Christ, I've read that and I've bought that story, hook, line and sinker. I've been asked 100 times, is that right? Is that right? It's impossible that the EPL would employ Bird and Bird to run this case, and that they would approach Mike Ashley to do an out-of-court offer, and they wouldn't do it without prejudice and confidentiality. So it would be a bit like Steve Wraith start the show tonight and not press and start. It would be a bit like Southgate taking the field against Germany with 9 players and forgetting to put 11 on. It's just basics. So I
have done that before, Keith, by the way.
I should have missed you out, to be fair, Steve. I'm talking about bright people, son. But what I'm saying is for a solicitor to have a bid to go to Mike Ashley, even if he says I'll settle for £1, there's not a solicitor in the land. Nobody, the solicitors in Benwell High Street would be so savvy that they would get it confidential and they would get it without prejudice and they would get it where it couldn't be quoted. God sake, I read the report and I went, oh no. And the report says they've done it, he's turned it down, he's going to use it in evidence, the arbitration. And the arbitration isn't even about out-of-court offers. The arbitration is about separation. The judge just told you that. But what it is people forget that. And what I worry about is that there's people, and I've met them. I met them when I was doing the food bank collections. I've met them on Twitter. I've met them on WhatsApps. I've met them in person. I met them in the street. I was in Newcastle in Grey Street 2 weeks ago, and people came up. And the only thing I worry about is your heart starts thinking first before your brain. And what you're doing is we all desperately want this takeover. And in the same way, we think we can beat Germany, we probably haven't got the organisation to do it. And we probably, like me, I've just skipped the quarterfinals in my brain, and I'm at the semis now. You know what I mean? And what it is why? Because I'd like to see England win a Euros. And here's Steve Mitchell laughing at us, but you know exactly what I'm doing because we're football fans. But the thing is, these lads in Newcastle, they're football fans, and for 14 years, they haven't felt they've competed. And all of a sudden, a bloke comes along and says, by 10:30 tonight, and for a day you go, and what you do is you send that to 30 WhatsApps and you send it to 30 texts, but you need to stop and just sit there and say, the report from the Burns, where he quotes 2 people, is disingenuous. He hasn't got that information from any sources, and the club don't even know about Burns' information. So that's point 1. Point 2 is the other report that I wasn't supposed to mention him. That was a pure wind up, and he's a troll, and he just winds people up. But you should also look at all the reporters, the people who wind Newcastle up, the people who support behind, they've all gone quiet. And the reason they've all gone quiet is because right now, legal action's taking place. And people are saying on Twitter, why is it Nick DeMarco's taking loads of photographs? Listen, don't you worry about that. He might take 40 pictures and he might just decide to upload them when he's sitting in chambers, or he might just do it. Don't read too much, what Nick DeMarco's doing. Nick DeMarco prepares like Ronaldo. So Nick DeMarco is the ultimate professional. And when he goes in court, he's going in to win. He's going to kick ass. He's going to nut somebody. He's not going to have it, shake hands and mess about. Nick DeMarco's a winner, and his reputation is on the line. Shahid Fatima is a Middle Eastern expert, and she's a tiger. She will, they will go in there and they'll kick ass. But so if you're saying to me, what's happening now is they're not going to play this publicly. I've been asked today millions of times, when are we going to find out if the arbitration, if the competition case has been thrown out or not? It hasn't been thrown out. It won't get thrown out. If that gets thrown out, you want to sell your house and move abroad and get out of Britain. But what's happening now is the arbitration is taking place. It will go in earnest. The competition action will start. The whole thing will come together. And the prediction is in 6 or 8 weeks' time, you'll probably know what's happening with your football club. And you won't find, people say to me, can it happen next week? It could happen tonight. They could be agreeing it now while we're on here.
The word I got this week was exactly the same as you, and we haven't spoken until we've started this show tonight. And I was told categorically when I asked the question this week, I was told exactly the same time scale as you.
6 to 8
this is going to be 6 to 8 weeks, which is bad news. It's bad news for Newcastle United as a football club with the transfers, because the way that I understood it, and the reason. But the way I understand it is that they obviously start planning at the end of the last transfer window. So we're already going to be playing catch up, and the Euros helps to a degree because it slows everything down worldwide. But it means that the transfer targets we were looking for possibly aren't the ones. I've just got to say that was one of Nick DeMarco's tweets in Brick Lane. But I loved John from Cutex thing there. He put writing is on the wall. I could have included that in Tweet of the Week, Steve, but I didn't.
I was going to say what you said there, though, Steve, about them preparing and not being ready. Newcastle United have said many, many times that their preparations for a transfer window are 3 windows in advance. The targets they're looking at are targets that they looked at 18 months, 2 years, 2.5 years ago.
Steve, we'll have to stop you there, mate, because your reception's awful. We can't hear you. You're breaking right up. You might have to go out and come back in. It's
just me.
Yeah, Steve. No, Steve.
I didn't know. Didn't know you was related R2D2, like.
You sounded like a Dalek there. Your reception's got. You're doing a Liam virtually. Yeah. You might have to go out. That's better now. That's better now. Go for it.
Right. I don't know what went on there. It's probably down with rain. I don't know whether there's thunderstorm out there.
It might be. Yeah, you're doing it. You were doing it, Liam, but we've got your back, Steve. Go for it.
Yeah, no, what I was saying was Newcastle United. They're 18 months behind. Their transfer window. They're looking at targets. They're looking at people coming in today and tomorrow and the next day and for the start of next season. They looked at them 18 months ago. If we think that there's no takeover happening at the moment, then that team that they have will be looking at targets that were already earmarked, and that's the way they're. If there is a takeover happening, that's where it becomes a different ball game, and that's where it becomes a problem for Newcastle United, and for a problem for any potential new owner, because they will have targets of their own. They will have players that they've identified. They've probably lost some of them. Some of them have probably already gone. Somebody asked a question to us online about the Euros and players that have interested us. There's bound to be players in the Euros that have interested potential buyers in Newcastle United, potential new owners that might have been on their list and might have had things that, and who knows, we now know players that are going to go to Juventus or Napoli or Lazio, or are going to go to Spain, or are going to go to Man United or Arsenal or whatever. Those players might have been targeted by our potential new owners. They might have been on their list. But the way that Newcastle United have always operated has always been, and they've talked about it at fans forums. They've explained a number of times how they operate. So it's an awkward situation. And I know what you're getting at, guys, in terms of the danger of 8 weeks' time. The danger is that in 8 weeks' time, the players are all back. I mean, they're back within next fortnight, 3 weeks. I think it's the 5th of July.
Some of them are back already. Aye.
Well, yes, exactly.
All the local lads are back already.
That's right. Yeah. And who blames them? Because there's nothing else for them to do. They kind of go on holiday.
True.
No, I mean, and that's the biggest issue with the timing of everything. Yeah. You know, you could even suggest is that why Rafa, for example, was happy to consider Everton, because he likes the project, he likes the plan. And so coming into a season half cooked is not what he wants to do. No. And so the whole timing is critical in terms of planning for the season ahead. You'll already be behind the 8 ball. And then you're looking to play catch up in a January window, which is traditionally never the best time to buy players at all. So it is problematic. It's very problematic.
My concern, the longer it goes on, Mitch, we're going to lose Rafa to somebody else, because I don't think he'll go to Everton, but I do genuinely believe that if this drags on for another 6 to 8 weeks, which is what Keith's heard and I've heard this week, then we could be at that point where Rafa may get a better offer.
I think
for me, the fact he was even in a position to consider talking to Everton, tells you what his mindset is.
He's saying that, and you think, right, Rafa going, but people say to me about this, what do you think? Personally, I want Rafa, because I think he's unfinished business. I think he's the best project builder. So I think as far as training ground, squad, build-up, culture, kind of players that want to play for you, I think he can lay all that foundation and come and continue where he was. And I think that he understands the club and the fans. That's why I personally want him. However, in reality terms, I say to people, the club won't give a shit about it, because the club and him didn't get on. The club and him won't be around because the club will leave. And so it bothers the buyers, but it won't bother the sellers. And at the minute, there's only the sellers at the legal table. So as much as it annoys me and frustrates me, like I know it does you three. I know you three are massive Rafa fans, and I think we are for all the right football and Newcastle reasons. However, when there's managers around like Conte and Zidane and Pochettino and people like that, the club would be saying, well, all right, so let's get excited about Rafa, but we haven't got a club to sell. The Premier League won't let us sell this club to these buyers. And it's the buyers who want Rafa. That's the difference. It's the buyers that want Rafa and his team to come and take over Newcastle. But the sellers, I think with respect, don't need to be bothered because they won't be around. And personally, have past experiences of not being able to work together with them, won't be bothered. So I think we're flogging a bit of a dead horse in the sense that we're all frustrated. But to me, Everton didn't happen. Even if it's 6 to 8 weeks, I personally think something will happen with Rafa in that period. I think he's that big.
Mitch, there's been, we've talked about this a little bit, but we seem to be getting a lot of Saudi followers on Twitter. This week, Mitch, we've had a bit of a spurt on them. Is there any reason behind that, do you think?
This week, I mentioned it to you guys on one of the WhatsApp groups, and Liam agreed as well, and you have said you've had a sort of in my case, it was more of a flood. It was noticeable. It was 2 or 3 every couple of hours on a couple of days this week. I know this. We know there is a Saudi social media machine that is used in many different ways to push their Vision 2030 agenda and push positivity about Saudi. We know Al Walid has introduced us to many other Saudi-based Newcastle fans as well. So it's like we're out there. If you're in Saudi and you put Newcastle United, I'm sure as accounts, we would pop up pretty quickly. Is there something to it? I do know there's a PR company based here in Dubai who are monitoring social media on behalf of PIF. And one of the things they were asked to monitor was the Newcastle United hashtag, 100%. That's from a former employee of said PR company who's now no longer in the country. So I think I can blab my mouth a little bit about it. So there's certainly been that, and that's been ongoing ever since PIF were announced as being involved in part of the consortium. But it would suggest to me that something's being ramped up on Saudi social media. Because why now? Why not 18 months ago? You know, it seems strange that now it would seem to suddenly be getting this rush of followers to our social media accounts from out of nowhere. So what's driving that? Is there suddenly more interest or expectation from the Saudi side of things? I would suggest yes, but you know that's from other things I hear in this part of the world from some of the sports journals. You know, that do have connections there.
Okay.
So that's how I read that.
Okay, I'm going to give a shout out to the sponsors now because I know we're going to get tied up in quite a few other things. So big shout out to Spider VPN, the Google Spider VPN. They will sort out all your internet security. Great bunch of lads down at Spider VPN. It was great to meet them last Friday. Steve and I had a good chin wag with the lads. But they have been a big sponsor of ours and they have now committed to doing the sponsorship again next month, which is great. And also a big shout out to skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay as you go waste collection. And as it's summer, you will have seen a little bit earlier in the week that he's now got his cricket kit on with some pads and a bat. He's somebody who takes up a lot of sports, Sir Bobby. Big shout out to Scott and the lads who've agreed to stay on with us in July as well. And qtechshop.co.uk, always a big thank you to John, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend and Newcastle, and also the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com, where you can pick up a whole range of T-shirts, including the Cult No Typo T-shirt, which is our best seller, and I've got that on tonight. We get a football top like Keith's got on. But please get your stuff at NUFCmatters.com. If you're a first-time visitor to the channel, please subscribe. It is free. We're still doing a show a night, so that is 7 a week. Just hit the Newcastle Legends logo and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share the video, and drop into the comments box to talk to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available on all your podcast providers, iTunes, Spotify, Podbean. Drop onto those if you're out walking the dog and you don't get a chance to watch us on YouTube. We've got all of our shows on there, and we do have this rather fab hoodie now available, and I've just got one. They're really fab. NUFCmatters.com, the Fab 4 hoodie. If you want to get one to support us, then please get yourself onto there. And don't forget, the food bank bucket, cyber bucket, is still in operation. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. Please give generously, whatever you can. And don't forget that once you put something into there, you will enter into the prize draw. And that is, of course, for the watch. Now, that will be drawn at a food bank event, NUFC Matters 24-hour charity pool night event, Friday the 6th of August. And to give you a little bit more info on this, Steve Hasty, the floor is yours.
Yep. Well, it's going to be a great night. We've already got between, I think it was either 6 or 8 sponsors for the evening, as well as QTech, which is fantastic. This is local companies who have come on board, who want their name associated with it, and who are obviously going to be, you know, their employees are going to be coming along. One of the best news that we've had, I think, all week is that it's looking like the whole how do we describe it? Farrago that's been going on with regards to lockdown, etc. Looks like it's going to be lifted around about the 19th of July. You know, we're gonna have people being able to go to the Euros. We're gonna have Silverstone's going to be allow 140,000 people. The Wimbledon tennis is going to be open to everybody, and it looks like the events that we've put on the 6th of August will be open. It'll be free. We'll be mask free. We'll be able to get as many people as we can into Spotlight, which is fantastic. we've got our fingers crossed that everything's going to be falling into place and there aren't going to be any limitations on how many people can come. All the pool tables are going to be available. There's going to be buckets on each pool table where you can make a donation to have your game of pool. There's going to be various games that John has got planned on various tables. Competitions, clearing the table, see how many pots you can go without actually missing a pocket, all of that type of thing. And obviously we've got the watch that's been up for grabs now for the last 6 weeks, and will carry on during the Euros. And for every donation that you're making towards the virtual bucket, you'll be in with a chance of winning this watch, which is worth, I would say, somewhere in the region of 350, 400 quid at least. It's a one-off as well, which is fabulous. So that's where we are. I'm going to meet with John next week. We're gonna finalise a few other little events, little side shows that are gonna go alongside this. Keith, you're coming up with a crowd of lads, I think, from your neck of the woods. So we're going to come up, and the good thing about it is you'll be able to come in at 12. And then you can go, you can come in. It's going to be on for literally, the place is open for 24 hours from Friday lunchtime until Saturday lunchtime. And you'll be able to nip in and out if you're coming into town and you want to go for a drink somewhere else and then come back. All of that type of thing. It's all going to be open. The bar's open. There's going to be there's facilities there to get something to eat. And really, the snooker hall has really opened its doors to us for this. And I've got to thank John, because it's John and his connections that have managed to put this all together. So it's going to be a really good night, or a good 24 hours. I've never played pool. I don't know about you guys. I've never played pool for years. Mitch, you drink
Steve Wraith's the champion. Steve Wraith.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I haven't played for a while though, because of COVID. But
I can see 3 people here out practicing. I can tell. I think there's
we call a legend
interactive game with where maybe we could get. I think that's what we're hoping, that we can get some of the guys and some of the bars in Dubai to maybe send some videos of themselves playing a couple of games of pool. And the same goes for any of our other watchers who come from abroad. If they want to send some photographs up of them playing pool in that black and white kit, and they want to raise some money for the food bank in exactly the same way, that would be absolutely fantastic. Keith, yours isn't a pool table. It's slightly bigger than a pool table in your house. But no doubt you're like one of these sort of masters as well. You're gonna turn up like a shy boy, and you're gonna say, "I've never played pool for years," and then wipe the floor with you. I can see this happening.
Steve Wraith told us he's the best. Wraith is a legend in his own mind.
I am. Oh, hey, the gauntlet's down. Yeah, but we'll see what happens. We'll have a laugh anyway. I've just good news. I've had a text off Ben, better known as Burnsy, and he thinks the T-shirt's great, and he is going to support it. So big thank you to Burnsy for that, taking it in the spirit that it was meant, which is very, very good of him. Okay, we have an hour left of the show. I know we asked for a lot of questions, but as always, we can talk underwater, us lads. So we might get to 1 or 2 of them. Unfortunately, we'll not get through 30, 40 questions, which is what we've been sent. And I'm sure Keith will spend a lot of time over the weekend answering them all. So without further ado, I think we'll go for... I say it every week. We've created an absolute animal.
It's taken an absolute bloody life of its own, isn't it?
It really has. I mean, there's and my favourite ones are the ones where I'm just copied in and Steve Hasty doesn't see them, and I don't retweet them, because they're the ones which get the best effect. But I think Steve, I'm not sure whether Steve saw this one. This one I got sent a few weeks ago, but we'll start with this one. What's going on with Steve? That's from Tim Cairns, which that was off the poster, the Fantastic Four, when we first launched with Keith, I think, and
poor dog,
the poor dog getting compared. Yeah. Now, some people do tend to create their own, and if you remember, we had Al, who was basically doing a lot of reface apps. Well, he's moved on now. Welcome to the NUFC Matters Fab Four: Neil Mitchell, Steve Wraith, Steve Hasty, and Keith Patterson. Dog lookalikes. Okay, so here's me. I think that's a bit big for me. But
is that not me?
No, I think that no. You're definitely there. I've got to go in the name. So I think I think that could be Keith Patterson.
I'm not.
No.
I'm the red one.
Is that me?
That you were the bulldog.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
Okay. Who's
next
that?
One's Mitch. And
yeah.
The next one's,
I know this one's you.
That's me.
I thought that was Mitch.
No, that was me. That's what he said to me.
That's you.
He said that was me.
Is that not me?
Nah, you were the. I think you were the bulldog, right?
Nah, that's Mitch. There's no denying Steve Hasty.
I know what's going on. I just knew.
I tell you what, that isn't the winner this week, by the way. But I've got to be honest, Steve. Steve, you've got a cracking pair of legs, son. I've got to be honest.
Steve, you know what? If I was you, Steve Hasty, I just can't shave your head off. Just can't get it.
Not your head. Shave your head, not your head.
Can't shave your head for like a number 2 or something and just be done with all these jokes. Like, so.
I look like the back end of that dog then, though.
Yeah, we did have somebody going down the route of not making us look embarrassing. We had this one from Robbie. He goes, look alike Harrison Ford and Jurgen Klinsmann.
Yeah, well, Harrison took a bit of a fall this week, didn't he? Yeah, he snapped his shoulder.
I did. Well, karma after taking it out on John Shearer and the autograph lads outside the Malmaison. That's it. He did end up in a bit of an argument though, because Colin said, "How about Ken Barlow as a comparison to Harrison Ford or Jurgen Klinsmann?" I don't know whether I can see that, but yeah, I get where you're coming from. I was in two minds whether to put this up, but I've been sent it that many times by different people, and we're going to have to go with it. Billy said, "This looks like someone I can't quite put my finger on it, Steve Wraith. I think I'll go for a John Joe Shelby lookalike. This was a security guard who was accused of killing some cats. Again, it's just anybody bold. It could have been me, Keith, but he's competitive. I can see he looks a little bit like John Joe Shelby. But anyway, it's done now. It's out there, and that was your fault, Billy, not mine. This one... Tony said that, can you see the resemblance between Storm Huntley, presenter on the Jeremy Vine show, and big, sexy Stevie Bruce?
They both got one nose.
I mean, maybe it was in the eyes, but can I really see Steve's eyes there? I don't know. Big shout out to Fire and Skill, who's a good pal of mine, who was messing around with hair dye this week and said, so I was Lou Reed for half an hour. Yeah, I hope you're doing well, mate. That's your 5 minutes of fame there. This one was from Billy again. Amazed to see Steve Wraith managing Hungary this afternoon.
I saw that one, yes.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
that's an insult, that, mate.
Thanks.
Troll of the week, that.
I did like this one from NUFC Geordie, my tune lookalike, Action Man and Ryan Fraser.
I'm not being funny, but like, the look is there, but Action Man and Ryan
Fraser.
It doesn't really,
do they? You know,
it doesn't.
It doesn't know. Broken flask.
Yeah. This one was from Chris here, who does our worldwide squad. Leonardo DiCaprio and Richard Masters.
Yeah. I know where he's coming from. You know,
his voice is matching your hair, mate.
He might get a chance to play him in the film anyway. This one was a good one from Chris Dodds. Killing it on Channel 4 this morning. Steve Wraith, lead singer of James.
We've had that one before.
Well, yeah. Not that particular photo though. This one was sent in by Wayne. He goes, look alike. One's a top international that gives 100% for France. The other, I believe, is a footballer. I
was laughing at that. That was good, like.
I thought that was a good one, yeah. This one was, again, from Kipper McFish. This lookalike, Bertie Miller and Bobby De Niro is quite incredible. Credit to old school Panini.
Yeah. Old school Panini, aye.
Yeah.
So I could say I did like that one. Again, nowhere near the winner this week. We got to send this one. I can't remember who sent it. Again, it's that Reface app. That was pretty good, wasn't it?
That was brilliant, that.
Again, it's this Reface app where the people just use like black and white, like footage of a film or something like that, and put stuff up. But yeah, that was pretty good. I did like that. We got this one, Keith. I think this is quite good for you. Gordon thinks you look like Telly Savalas.
Yeah, like.
Who loves you, baby?
Who loves you, baby?
That's Keith on holiday, which I thought was.
Can I just stick being Bruce Willis because I'm just still going to town on that.
And we got sent Life Goals sent this. Now I've got to go back up to the top of the pictures. I put that in just so I can remember. He was saying what we wear on screen, Mitch, and what you and I wear off screen. So that's me apparently.
What's Egghead in the middle?
I have no idea who that is. Is it like Steve Stone Cold Austin or somebody?
Stone Cold Steve Austin, aye.
Yeah, I thought it was. We've got no idea who the guy is on the end, but his pout is horrendous. And this is you, Mitch.
Fantastic.
You should never have took your pants off live on TV. I did tell you.
Well, you didn't know.
Yeah, well, I didn't. No, I did tell you after the event. Now, I like this one. This was early on in the week from South Shields Mag. Seen it on Facebook. Definitely look likely. Some guy who looks like Harry Kane.
Aye.
Christ.
Right.
You got same badge.
Harry Kane with a habit, I think. Yeah, he's got the armband on, but that's about it. I can see where you're coming from with that. Second place. Oh, no. Third place this week was this one. Early Halloween look-alike from Wayne Bennett.
That was good, that was good.
The Geordie Dentist theme there, which was good. That was a late entry. Second place.
I love that one.
That was brilliant.
That was brilliant.
But as always, knocked into a cocked hat by Steve Hasty.
I know what's coming here.
From Billy Walker. Quaker Oats, man. That's brilliant, that, right? He's doing the hair, look. He's doing the hair forward. You need to drag it down. That's it. He's done it. Steve, lad, you do get some stick with them, mate, but it's all in good taste. Keep them coming in. Send it at Steve Wraith on Twitter or at Old Titonian, NCSL or at Geordie Dentist. Get them in. Tune looking like it always makes our week. Brilliant, man. I suppose we've got to take a question. A question. Look, the one about the takeover. What I'll do is we'll go a question eating. We can all dig in. We'll go to you, Keith, because I did notice that you replied to this guy. Brian Hellens had asked a question. Do you think there'll be a settlement before any cases get underway? Cat and arbitration. And will Mike Ashley take a settlement or will he fight?
Mike Ashley's an astute businessman, so anybody that's made billions himself, self-made, will always take a deal. We'll know what that deal is, and what they do is they set a number or a total or an acceptance before they enter court. So Mike Ashley will know what good looks like, what acceptable looks like, and what I'll take it if I've got it looks like. Will there be a settlement before court? I think so. Can't imagine that. I think takeover. I think arbitration will start. I think the cat case will start, but I think the whole thing is going to come crashing down because how can you have an ASL in British football, in English football, and not have a car crash coming? It's unthinkable. How do we know there's stuff out there where Liverpool and Tottenham saying they don't want the Newcastle Takeover to go through. Amanda said that, and she was proven right. There's been, somebody said earlier, would the club not have been better just taking the deal that was, and take the arbitration, that was offered last April? Well, no, because since last April, they've got mountains of evidence to hang on pegs. Yeah. So I think that they... Do I think you'd have won an arbitration last April? No, I don't. I think if arbitration had come last year, I think you'd have lost it because I think the Premier League would have blagged it. Everything in the court case works in the Premier League's favour because back then, they would have got away with more, that the FA carried the third vote. They'd have got a homer of a bench. And I remember talking to the club back end of last summer, and they weren't fully aware, or their legal teams weren't fully aware of why the red flags claim and why things changed. We had a timeline done in October, a legal timeline, and it highlights that things changed drastically when a certain Gary Hoffman joined the club. When he joins, everything changes. So they were promising government that they were going to settle and they were going to give an imminent answer, which you've all seen in the press over the last few weeks. And round about that time, we have a timeline which you can put a cursor over the key and it'll show you what documents came up and what was happening on the Wednesday, the Thursday, the Friday of every week. And that's been done by competition experts, and it's all been handed over the club because, you know, we in a sense, in legal terms, are out of it now. But I don't think that what I've seen, and I know the club have got some more personal experiences, and the ESL has given them some more what I'd call gimmies. They've given me something on the ESL has given them things on a plate. I don't think that that you can carry the ESL catastrophe, the Tottenham, Liverpool, USA objections to Newcastle's takeover, plus what we give, plus what the club have got, and get through those court cases. So I think it will settle, but I think it'll settle at the last minute. I think it'll settle when someone goes in and slaps Richard Masters along the head and says, "What the hell are you doing?" You know, some lawyer's going to sit down with him and say, "We're going to lose this. We're going to lose it bad." And when anybody's going to lose anything bad, they'll always make a settlement. So, and people say, "Is it too late to settle when the case starts?" No, you can settle the case. If it's a 14-day case, you can settle it on the 13th day. You go home on the 13th night. You just settle that case there and then on the night. And just he goes back to the judge the next day and says, "On day 13, we've decided to settle." Judge is happy. Judge just says, "Right, case over. I'll go on to another case." So yeah, I think it'll settle, but I think it will be at the 11th hour. And Steve Wraith, as you said tonight, and the source that Steve Wraith got's impeccable. And it's you know, I've got a source that said 6 to 8 weeks is expectancy time for all this to play out. It doesn't sound great, and then you might say as fans, well, you know, how do we get players? Yeah, we'll probably get the dregs. Yeah, we'll probably get what we've got now. But, you know, if we go into the new season with a Willock and a new centre forward and a creative midfield player, we'll get through the season, and you'll have money behind you that will let you get back in the big league. But you can't be driven by what you can't control, and we can't control the date on this, and it's going to take longer.
Sad but true, and you know, hope that answers the question. As I say, Keith is always willing to interact with people on social media, so give him a follow on Twitter, because you know, any questions you've got like that, he always takes the time to answer them. You know, in a nice fashion. Just don't troll the lad.
I think it's worth mentioning, Steve, as well, that the arbitration that was offered back in June of last year was with the buyers and the Premier League to talk about separation and to talk about and to see whether, because they want to, this is a totally different one, isn't it? If that's my understanding anyway.
Yeah.
It's a totally different type of arbitration.
Yeah.
Totally different case. It's about different topics. So that's the difference between the two.
Steve, give us an answer to this question from Wayne Bennett, who put this on Twitter. He said he wants us to ask us all, but I'm trying to give everybody a chance to speak and give an answer. So, with the Castoria kit still to be revealed, and obviously we've seen a lot of things go around the internet of suggested strips, he says, what's been your favourite away shirt in the last 10 years, Steve? Or, I think we should widen it out. What's been your favourite away shirt ever? And what colour would you like next season's to be?
Favourite away shirt is the one that Keith wore. Was it last week, Keith?
Last week.
The Grandad shirt, as I describe it, a David Ginola 1994.
Definitely.
The maroon and blue, the collar and the cream. That's there has not been a better away kit than that.
I agree.
Okay, what about you, Mitch?
Silver, all silver.
Oh, that was nice.
84?
Take
Not the one that was all silver with pinstripes, not the one that was silver with the black and white band across.
Right, yeah, got you. Okay, yeah, I would go for the I'd go for the silver one with the pinstripes. That was my favourite away strip. I always felt that should just be it. I didn't realise we were going to go into this culture of reproducing shirts and making money out of them.
That was as innovative as the half and half black and white stripes that we had as well at the time. You know, those two kits for that time were super innovative. And that was when Umbro were doing all sorts.
Yeah. What about you, Keith?
Well,
what you had on last week?
1,000,000%. I think it's two reasons. You could go out with jeans on it. It looks smart. I mean, even now, it still looks good. And I wore that shirt 20 years ago, and I thought, Jesus, because people said to me, "You're not fitting it now," and it was too big. You know, it was an XL, and I'm a large now, and I'm just more ripped. But
27 years ago, Keith, there are players in the England squad that weren't even born when we were wearing that kit.
You're right.
Frightening.
The thing about that shirt is Steve just said there, because it was cream, it didn't weather like the shirt, like the white ones does. So we used to go out, if you've been on the drink and that, you've been out all day, it was just cream, it looked a bit tidier. But it wasn't red, which we can never ever wear. It was burgundy and it was blue. And I don't know, the burgundy and the blue were dark colours. So it was half smart when you went out. The badge was good, everything about it. The collar was good. But the main thing is the players who wore it were good. And that's what it is for me. It just takes my brain back to an era that I used to walk around the country like thinking we were everyone's second favourite team and we were accepted. The away support then was phenomenal. Like the away games are better than the home games.
Moxie Mag asks, Steve, do you think we should change the name of the East Stand? And if so, what would be your choice, Steve?
Good question. Good question, isn't it?
Do we need it changed? Well, you know,
Yes.
I've always been a. Would I call it the Harvey Stand? I don't know. Honestly, it's not something that's ever crossed my mind, to be perfectly honest. I'd like to demolish it, to be perfectly honest. I'd like to demolish it and make it into some super, double-tiered glass, fantastic stand. It might be narrow and there might not be the much space behind it, but that's what I'd like to do with it. I'd like to demolish it and turn it into something that, because not being funny, it's made out of concrete. Concrete usually only has a 50-year lifespan. It's been up since 1970, God, whatever, 73, 72, something like that. It's probably going to collapse shortly if it's not careful, especially if like Ashley's been not looking after it. Like it looks like he hasn't looked after the rest of the ground.
I thought you said if he sat in it. I thought you were going to say if he sat in it.
Yeah, right. God forsake. I wouldn't be surprised if it collapsed.
So you mentioned Harvey, and I mean, I would say Joe Harvey. I mean, Joe Harvey is a great shout because he is the last manager to win anything. He's the last manager to bring a European trophy, the only manager to bring a European trophy, but the last person to bring silverware of any note to Newcastle United. And he was also our captain in those wonderful FA Cup years. And I still think that, although I helped raise the money for the Harvey plaque at the Gallagher end of the ground, I think it was a horrendous tribute to somebody who played a huge part in our history. Jackie Milburn's got a statue for scoring the goals. Joe Harvey should have something fitting. So I think the Joe Harvey stand would be a fantastic gesture. I would be fully behind that. I really would be. That would be my suggestion as well. I understand people saying Keegan because of what he did for the club, but he never won anything apart from promotion. And he kept us up from the old third division, got us promoted as a manager, got us promoted as a player, and he almost won us the league, but he didn't win anything. Joe Harvey won the Cup in 51, 52, 55, and he won the Fairs Cup in 69, and he got us to an FA Cup final in 74. You know, what more can a man do? And he was a great ambassador for the club. He got the club, he got the area. So Joe Harvey stand will get my vote. You know, I could go down the sympathetic route and go because of my connection with Pavel, the Cernacek stand. But when you start going into that realm, you know, you'll get more people who will say, well, what about the Tiote stand? You know, you can't really start paying tribute to people who've passed away. Although it would be nice, I think it's got to be somebody who's won something. And I think Harvey fits the bill perfectly. Mitch, what's your take?
How about the Rosebery K Holmes tartan blanket stand?
Or the what was the guy who used to do the Red Indian chant that Mick Edmondson knows?
Man.
It could be the Red Indian stand.
Yeah.
It could
No.
be. Yeah.
If you're gonna make it a tribute to somebody involved with the club, I totally see the argument for Harvey.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't had the recognition for what he did with the club as a captain or as a manager.
Yeah.
And when you look at some of the way other clubs treat their legends like that, and you know that they'll name not just a stand but bits of stands and sometimes and things like that, and we can't do anything with
the Joe Linton toilet.
Well, it could be. I mean, like Steve says, at least it wasn't at the Gallagher end. At least there wasn't much standing in it ever. Because did you not see the report on the Maracana before they changed that? That was one of the stands was just about to fall apart because the amount of urine dribbling down the concrete had sort of dissolved it over the years and made it unsafe.
Wow.
So Christ knows what the Gallagher end was like when that was dug up.
The Richie Corner, you know.
I can smell that smell. You know, as soon as somebody starts talking about the Gallagher toilets from the 80s, I can actually smell it.
Yeah.
You can taste it, man. It's that. Yeah, it's awful. But yeah, I see the argument for Harvey. It's very difficult to look past that because if you look at everything else that's named in the ground, there's good reasons for it.
And it would be perfect. The Milburn stand, the Harvey stand, facing each other. But I agree with Steve. If it could be knocked down and built up again, that would be great. But we all know that we'd have to buy the university buildings, and then they'd have to be incorporated into the back of the stand. I mean, I remember I've mentioned it on the show before, but I saw that when I was fans liaison officer, I sat with David Stonehouse, who was chief executive at the time, and he showed us the plans for the ground that was under consideration to knock the east stand down, rebuild it, and buy the student accommodation on Lees's Terrace behind, and incorporate the fascia into the new stand. That was the only way around it. And he actually said financially, although Freddie and Dougie were prepared to do it, from their perspective, it would have actually been cheaper to buy a new ground than to do that, which is bizarre.
Mitch and I talked to people who were interested in turning it into an almost entirely glass. You know, obviously you're not be sitting on glass. You know, that type of thing. The actual external part, because the whole problem was it was taking the light. The height was going to take the light away from the listed buildings behind. Yeah. And so we Mitchell, remember the conversations we had, and the way that people, you know, designers and architects work now, and with this new stuff, we could turn it into something really, really spectacular on almost the same platform, or just moving it further out. You know,
it was that conversation that eventually led me to meet John Henry, who was the architect who is a patient of mine is now as well, who did the designs where he turned the pitch through 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And knocked that together. You know, he in a conversation with me said, you know, I've got the perfect solution for that. And explained how he would do it and make the pitches of the stand at a certain pitch to get more seats in, and it would have been 73,000, I think, with the pitch turned through 90 degrees. And it took away the problem of the east stand, because that east stand becomes one of the ends, not one of the sides.
Yeah.
And so it just was a totally innovative way around it. And that was eventually, I shared that with Mark Douglas, and he loved that idea and ran it with the Chronicle. And you know, there's loads of different ways people look at solving that problem. There's the problem of the East Stand and Lees's Terrace is one that must be solved one day, one way or the other. Yeah. Along with, do we then get new owners involved in talks about buying the land as well?
I think names are significant this week. There was a lot of debate on telly, on Twitter, about Usain Bolt, because he's
Thunderbolt.
Called one kid Lightning and one kid Thunder. Yeah. And then our friend Man Byers came on and said he should call a kid Shot Me.
Yeah, it was funny how that was on the show. What about you, Keith? What would your choice be for these stand?
I've just got an Alsatian pup off the place, 2-year-old pup, and I've just called it Harvey. and it's a cracking thing. You know what I mean? It's an animal. It's a dog of a dog. It wants to bite everything, and he's a lovely dog. And I just call him Harvey, and I, you know, it just comes to us the name straight away. And you know, I've got massive sort of attachment to that time and what he did. And I think when you put over Steve, you're a good ambassador for what he's done. You've just said there what he won as a player, and then he won the last trophy as a manager. So I think logically that's what you do. But for me, again, the emotional guy, I couldn't have anything else but Keegan. He's my hero. He didn't just come back and nearly win somebody. He came as a player when he shouldn't have came, and he saved us. He brought a brand of football that changed the whole face of Newcastle United, and he came as a manager, and he come closer than we've ever been in my lifetime to winning anything serious. But he gave us great nights. He took us to Milan. He did things with the football team that hasn't been done before. So for me, Keegan needs to be ambassador when this takeover comes. He needs to be there on match days. He needs to be upstairs. He needs to be involved in the club, as does Alan Shearer. And they're the two people that in my watching time. I mean, you know, I was there in 1969 watching Newcastle, and I was there 74 Cup final and 76 and all the rest. But when you talk about recognising people, the two people I feel that my club don't recognise is Alan Shearer came to Newcastle when he could have gone anywhere, and he gave us years and years and years of blood and service. And Kevin Keegan came back twice as a manager, and if he'd been given the right, we'd have had another era of Kevin Keegan, because Kevin Keegan knows what Newcastle fans want. So the things that's missing in my ground, and you know, John Hall did a great job at Newcastle, and there's a stand named after him, but there should be a Keegan and Shearer stand, and probably a Harvey stand as well.
Yeah, I would agree. We have got half an hour left, and still quite a bit to go through, as always. So we'll try and get through one or two more questions if we can, with a few quicker answers from us all. But for now, we've got to go to Tweet of the Week. You'll have to forgive us with this, because unfortunately StreamYard that we broadcast on, the JPEGs are so small at times that there might be the odd lookalike which pops up, but I've got a gist of where I'm going with this tonight. So I just want to say a big thank you to Nikki for sending this in, another happy customer who has bought an NUFC Matters t-shirt. So big thank you to you, and thanks for your support. And just there's your photograph up as well, so I hope you're happy with that. And as I say, get on to NUFCmatters.com. John's got some fantastic merchandise up there. Okay, Tweet of the Week. There's been quite a few that me and Steve have gone through. I thought this one was good, just from Newcastle United, Steve. Graham Jones with Saka after the game against the Czech Republic.
Yeah. I can't make out what it's saying. Lock6 commented. The club put that up, didn't they? And there's a great photograph, and it just shows that Jones is fully integrated, isn't he, in the England squad, and has a lot of time for the young players.
Yeah, he was belting out the national anthem as well, which is always good to see. Yeah. I always enjoy seeing that. I thought this was quite good. Just Mitch, you're never far from people's mind with alcohol, and I'll get persecuted here, Mitch, if I don't ask you what you're drinking tonight.
Well, I've had a little departure. Had a find this evening in a shop called African and Eastern, which is one of the booze shops over here, and I found some of my favourite Hogarden Rosé. So if anybody looks at the glass and sees it's a bit of an odd colour, because it's the rosé version of Hogarden. You've
had a bit of a problem though, haven't you, Mitch? In Goodfellas, I understand that you've drank them dry.
I've finished that Desperado and I've finished that Peroni, apparently.
What, in the whole country?
Yes.
Well, you've got to understand, Steve. This is a bar. We go there because it's cheap and it's rubbish.
Yeah,
the management skills in Goodfellas are zero, and
it's not that
half the time it is for Dubai, mate.
I know that, but it's not cheap.
Half the time you don't even know what you're drinking because it's
Brilliant.
is that really Heineken? Don't know. It's a beer of some description. So I recently disappeared on the bottles to get around the new happy hour rules.
Brilliant.
And it seems I've emptied the bottles.
Well, Johnny, thanks for sending that in. And as always, it reminded me that I've got to ask Mitch about what he's actually drinking. We've got this one in.
Just had me pal from Ashington saying it looks like Turkey is going to lose to Hartlepool and Switzerland in the same day.
That's brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant.
You've got to pronounce Turkey, of course, in the Ashington way, which is I'm
the last person to speak about that.
Which I thought was very good. But congratulations! I did say at the start of the week to Hartlepool, absolutely fantastic to see the lads come up. It was a great game to watch as well. There, sometimes those games are better.
Delighted for Jamie Sterry after leaving Newcastle, going to South Shields, and then going to Hartlepool. Delighted for him getting back.
He's just a glory seeker. That's all he is.
Well,
Since he left
Newcastle. He knows that, really, doesn't he?
Dan McMahon tickled me with this one. Mike Ashley waving off the PIF lads from Luton Airport runway after a business chat over an evening meal, beef stotties, chips and gravy, allegedly. This is after all the plane spotting reports we had this week. Dan, that was absolutely class, mate. And great to see Mike Ashley looking so well. It has to be said. Steve, this one from Dan Burkett.
Yeah. Look at the arms on that.
Look at the arms on that.
The arms, the down at the ankles almost. They need to quit with these unrealistic male model expectations. Look at the shorts as well. Dear me, but the arms, classic, absolutely brilliant.
I'm afraid the red and white combo puts me off every time. So you're not seeing me walking along the quayside with them. The next one now. There has been a bit of a Twitter banter, and it's got to be said banter. But I've put this up because Darren is probably one of the busiest England and Newcastle fans I know. And I think people taking it to heart over his jibed podcasters are taking it too far. But Darren and the lads on Wembley Way, we don't sit in our bedrooms talking pony. We put the miles in and we support our country and club. And listen, take your hat off to Darren and the lads because he's been on the show before as well. Darren, I've got a lot of time for him. Him and the lads always have fun wherever they go. I mean, he's got the bands now as well, and they've got them into the right way of being a fan. And look, not all of us can afford to go home and away, but a lot of us on this podcast do. And for me, Darren and that are up there in the unique supporters. If anybody, if anyone deserves tickets for games and that, it's him and the lads because they do go far and wide. And a big shout out to Darren. And
those lads do an awful lot, Steve, as well. Not just on the travelling and that, but they do an awful lot in the community as well. I mean, the support they give for people on North Tyneside who are struggling is phenomenal. They're a great bunch of guys. You see them sometimes in the strawberry after the match, and the crack with them. They're really, really are. These are salt of the earth lads.
When NCSL started, I've never said this on here, but when they started, he was probably the first named person out there who ever tried to help NCSL. And we had a load of trouble in gaining credibility. And I would say him, then Liam Kennedy, and then you lot. But what happens is people fall by the wayside. But Darren came on and he was working, I think, in Aberdeen. I think he was working in there.
Yeah, he works offshore.
And he was trying to get calls through us to tell us what to do, what not to do. And then this week, I'm a bit of an outsider to Twitter, so I read this week where somebody was winding him up saying about this, that, the other, and it got like feisty, and I just thought to myself, God, he's probably one of the last blokes because of his credibility, but also he doesn't take no rubbish. And I just thought he just says it. I'll look forward to you tapping us on the shoulder of the match if you want to come and say it.
Yeah, I did say that one. I chose the more positive one to go with. But big shout out to Darren. Now this one could have gone into lookalikes, but it didn't. And this has come into tweet of the week. This is number 3 in the charts this week. This is from Mark Byers. Tune lookalikey, he said, but I think it's more of tweet of the week. Bearded Steve Wraith driving. Money Mike Ashley and Geordie Dentist in the back for his bucket hat. which I think was brilliant. Like, it's
honestly, that's pretty good. Hey, well done, Mark, for spotting that one. It's a little video as well, because the kid falls over at the end, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, very, very good though, but definitely
well
the
done.
Geordie dentist in the back there.
Yeah.
Okay, number 2 was this one from Lee. Tweet of the week contender, if I've ever seen one, and it was the Scooby-Doo cartoon there, Steve.
Yeah, and he pulls the mask off and takes Southgate's mask, and who's hiding underneath? Steve Bruce.
Absolutely brilliant.
Always the baddie. Get the mask off.
The winner is one of our panel members, and I just love this one. Big round of applause to Charlie Bennett.
Yes. Morrison's really taking the P with their large English breakfast these days. Surely the biggest downgrade since Bruce replaced Rafa. He's got a little plate of beans, 2 sausages, what looks like a poached egg, 1 tomato, 2 bits of bacon, and is that a hash brown?
Hash brown.
1 hash brown. Dear me, it's not even covered the plate. You know, there's more blue on that plate than there is food. For goodness' sake.
Absolutely awful. But Charlie, well done, mate. You have won Tweet of the Week. As always, QTech have their giveaway slot where you get a load of clues. You have to write your clues down, and at the end of the month, those clues go towards answering a big question. And as always, we're giving away some NUFC Matters goodies, courtesy of qtechshop.co.uk. And just a refreshing of the memory, maybe for the other clues if I can find them. I know one of them was definitely Super Mac. I've got to find it. Bear with us. Here it was. Super Mac was the first clue. Your second clue was A. Bruce. So your third clue this week is this.
Oh.
Irving Nattrass. And a black and white picture of the Tyne Bridge. Is that significant? I don't know. But that is your clue for the QTech competition. Write that down, and we'll give you another clue next week. And this all adds together like a jigsaw, and you will be able to come up with the answer, hopefully. I think it's time for Julie's favourite part of the show. Less abuse for me, more abuse for other people, it seems. But this one was just in reflection of last Friday's attempt to close the channel down. And this was a conversation from Daz, who basically says, ha ha ha, Steve Wraith's shite being pulled has made an already pretty good day absolutely spectacular. And then, you know, he goes on to call us a Tory fiddler. Unbelievable. I keep telling you, I'm not a Tory and I'm not a fiddler. But yeah, Daz, sorry mate, but we're still here. So it makes it pretty irrelevant, and the fact you weren't even at us in that conversation makes you my troll of the week. It's just some bizarre people, really is. But it is getting better, social media, for me, it has to be said. And the week, of course, wouldn't be complete, and the Fab 4 show wouldn't be complete without a little bit of my favourite tune.
Evening all. Toon Tipster here with a Euro update. Now, I didn't want to start with a rant, so I'm going to apologise now. I'm no Steve Hasty, but I couldn't keep this in any longer. Come on, he said, get your cell on a Friday night, have a bit of crack with the lads, you can talk to Keith and Mitch and Steve. Aye, grand. Well, here we are, 2 weeks later, and I've got another pre-record. I tell you, Matty Longstaff gets treated better than this. Anyway, due to not being trusted to come on live again, I thought the best thing I could do is just give you a quick update on the outright prices for the tournament. In bookmaking, outright is a term that we use to describe clear, single winning bets. It is not a descriptor of Neil Mitchell's balls from a few weeks ago. They were out all right. Anyway, at the time of recording this, I've got absolutely no idea who England will be playing. So here are some selected odds to date. These will, of course, change as the week goes on. In terms of favourites for the tournament, France are still at the top of the list at a very, very tempting 7-2. Interestingly though, they've now been followed by Germany, who are coming in at 11-2. Italy are there at 6-1, with England joining Spain at 7. Belgium at 8, Portugal at 10, and the very impressive Holland are still there at 12-1. Not bad if you ask me. Unfortunately, I can't find a price for Scotland. There must be something wrong with my system. But if you're interested, there is another country playing by the name of Wales, and they're coming in at 80-1. If you do fancy a winner out of that lot, I suggest you get to the bookies soon before the prices start to shorten, and they will. In terms of top goal scorer, Romelu Lukaku remains favourite to score at just over evens. Ciro Immobile, yes Steve, that's Ciro Immobile. That's without a pint. He's second favourite at 9-1. Memphis Depay, Barcelona's new signing, is coming in at 10, followed by the French pair of Griezmann and Mbappe at 20. Raheem Sterling started really well, and he's there at 33-1 if you think he can keep the goals coming. The pre-tournament favourite to be top scorer, Harry Kane, is now 40-1. There is still time, and particularly for those of you who think England have got enough to go all the way. Anyway, that's all I've got for this week. I'm off to go and ask Ben Jacobs if he fancies making a new podcast that we can do together. I'm going to call it Keith Patterson is Full of Shit. Discuss. Could be a goer. And yes, if I do leave, it is your fault, Steve Wraith. Anyway, I might see you all again sometime. I might not. I'll see what my mate Ben thinks. Please take care. Please gamble aware. And come on the England. Unless we draw Germany and then we're 4-1 to get knocked out on penalties. Love you all. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Absolutely brilliant. Joe Walker, Toon Tipster, superb, mate. Take a bow, son. Absolutely brilliant. Great stuff. And Keith, what do you think about his new idea for a show?
I think it's cruel. I think it's hard, and like I have a heart in it, and I can be hurt. And I just think, I just feel as I'm the object of ridicule all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, but the trolls have done it for months, and like now you three's doing it, now he's doing it, and I might resign. Honestly, I feel like Keegan. I might have had enough.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
No, it's all right. You're laughing here, Steve. You know what I mean? You're just getting pissed about your hair and that. But I mean, it's always. I try my best.
Yeah, good.
Good luck now.
Yeah,
I think it's lovely. I love it. But I feel sorry for him because I didn't realise the lads. I mean, he's put loads into it. His presentation's great, but I can't believe that like he's doing two pre-recorded. So he thinks we don't trust him to go.
He'll be back.
You know, he will be. Okay, look, Dan Toon. There's a few people on Twitter have asked roughly the same question. Declan Coggan, Dan Toon 3431 about the Euros. Steve, come to you first about it. Which two players have impressed you, and which two players realistically, if the takeover goes through, would you like to sign? Realistically, he says.
Realistically, Gosens of Germany. I'm impressed with him. I thought that he plays for Atalanta. I'm impressed with him. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up like every other German. He ends up at Barcelona, at Bayern Munich, because you look at the German team and virtually everybody plays for them now. If they don't play, they soon will be. I've been impressed with him. Locatelli, Italy, midfielder. We've got no chance of getting him. He's going to Juve for 34 million apparently, but very, very impressed with him. They're the two players. I mean, I've got a list of players that have impressed us that I think are absolutely class that would fit in. I've got a list of Germans that worry us. But if I'm looking at two players, I look at Locatelli. He's only 23, and I look at Gossens if I wanted a central defender.
All right, Mitch. What about you?
Two Dutch lads, Dumfries and Depay. I think the Dumfries as the fullback has been a revelation for me. I think he's looked fantastic. And Depay's finally become the player he should have been a couple of years ago. I'll be interested to see what the move to Barca does for him, because that will be either a fantastic move for him and he'll grow from strength to strength, or he'll go there and there'll be a lot of pressure on his shoulders to be the one that makes the change, because they've invested heavily in him and he's probably the only big investment they'll make this summer. So, you know, that carries a bit of weight, but they're the two, and the Dutch team overall. I think I said, I agree with you, Keith. They've come into the tournament. Some of them have had injuries and they haven't played a full season, so they're young and they're hungry, and that's exactly what they look like when they play. And a word for the Welsh keeper, because I think he's had two of those three games. He had a fantastic couple of games.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, and playing above a standard that he's normally used to playing at, really. And I think he's really, really done a very good job and deserves a little bit of a mention.
Good call.
What about you, Keith?
I'm going to be biased because I picked Holland out from the start, and my mate Ed Jansen watches the show every week from Utrecht. And the two players that stand out for me is Depay and Wijnaldum. And when I look at if you said which two players makes you smart, Depay, when I watched him, I thought, Christ, he's good. If I was buying a forward, it would be Locatelli, like Steve says, or Mbappe, rather than Kane. And, you know, like, I always thought that the Man United kid was outstanding. When you watch people come in the England team, they look average. So none of the England players are blown us away. But Ronaldo still, when I watched him, I just think, for a lad his age, he's just exceptional. When he gets the ball, he still looks the world-class player on there. But when I look at who we'd buy, because one of your questions was who's impressed you, I'd say Ronaldo, Depay. Who did you not know about that you saw? Locatelli. But which players would you buy? I think I then drop back to who could we afford, who might come to Newcastle, you know, like who could we get? And the two players that I would take tomorrow, because we're just missing a creative midfield player, or I think it's Modric and Wijnaldum. What Modric on that goal? That goal was unbelievable. What he did with that ball
Was a great goal, wasn't it?
But Wijnaldum is like you forget, man. He was one of the biggest teams in the world. Like Liverpool were, you know, challenging for the biggest honours around, and it's an age thing that they think he's not worth the investment. He's beat Newcastle before. So, you know, like, but ever the dreamer, I thought, like, Rafa coming back, bring Wijnaldum back. Because if you sank him in the middle of, if you sank him in the middle of that pitch, I think it'd be a revelation for us for 2 years. I
tell you who I think's been really good. I picked out a couple that I think that people are looking. I thought Vormalenko, who's playing at Ghent, he's only 25, the Ukrainian. I thought he could be someone who might fall into Newcastle's price range, and just because of where he is. The other one is it's Leiner, the Austrian who plays for Borussia Mönchengladbach. I like the look of him, and also that the Slovakian Chernia. I thought he looked the part, and there's three players that probably Chernia's at Inter, but there's three players that probably could be in Newcastle's price range. If we're talking about the current Mike Ashley Newcastle's price range. I agree, Mitch, about Dumfries' mind. I mean, he's he's been a revelation. He's been playing in a back four at PSV, and now he's playing as a wing back. And he just looks so exciting for a 25-year-old. He looks so exciting, doesn't he?
Classic modern fullback. I doubt he can defend properly.
Yeah.
You know, he's a classic modern fullback. The other one I nearly chucked in as well was the Swedish striker whose name escapes us. The number 8, the big lad. He's a handful.
Yeah.
Which England players have impressed you, Steve?
England players, well,
Saka looked great for me.
Yes, Saka's probably the only one that I thought that I would look at and think, you know, that would be a really, really exciting buy for Newcastle. I don't think any of the others have really stepped up to the mark in terms of where they've played for their clubs. You know, I don't think we've seen the best of Foden. I don't think we've seen the best of Mount. We certainly haven't seen, as we've said earlier, the best of Harry Kane. Defensively, you know, Luke Shaw's now back in the team, but he wasn't there for the first game. Walker, if there's anyone really looks like he's all over the place, you know, defensively, attacking wise, he's neither a fullback nor a central defender. He's neither a wing back nor a winger. He seems to be everywhere. But I think that's just Walker, just doing everything to impress, trying to be there.
For me, it's Grealish. I thought Grealish did the other night where he picked that ball out, he stuck it on the head, he won the game just in a move. And I think he's capable of doing so much more. I was so disappointed when they took Foden off. I think Foden's, you know, like this world class kid we've got, and I think you've got to persevere with people like that. I think it's like when Gascoigne was good. I think you've got to invest in them and give them time. But with Foden, I don't know. I was disappointed when they took them off, and I just thought, you know, I wouldn't have took them off then. But when Grealish knocked that ball over, I looked at my brother and I said, "Jesus Christ, he's a league above." What he's just done there, ball he put over us four could have scored that goal, mine. And he's
got a bit more about him. Listen, I like Phil Foden. I think Phil's given himself a lot of pressure. He's given himself a lot of pressure. The spotlight's on him. He got the haircut. He was getting hyped up.
I agree.
And sometimes, I mean, he's only 20, isn't he? I mean, he's got so much development still to do. I think Grealish has been around the block a little bit more, and he's probably a little bit more of a bad boy of that midfield. And again, we've got a multitude of talent in the midfield area, and it's almost like that period under Lampard and Gerrard where you're going to have to decide. You're going to have the balls to decide who's your main man. I like Henderson, and I know he's a former Sunderland player, but I don't let that count against us for England. I think I like Henderson in the midfield. I think we look a better team with him in the midfield, and I think you need to find the right creative player to play alongside him. And I also feel, and I said this last night on Malcolm's show, I prefer Maguire as an England centre half. Then I don't think he's as good as a club centre half as he is as an international. I think he suits international football. He's a big, strong lump of a bloke in that back four who just does it simple, you know. And Pickford's had absolutely nothing to do.
Do you know? I'm pleased he's got nothing to do because somebody said to me, "Who would you swap out the German team, the England team?" I said the goalie. That's the first thing I said. The goalie. Straight, it was the first bloke I would swap. Mind, he made a one-handed save the other night, which was absolute world class. But to me, he's not a world class goalie, and you know he just isn't it. But when you talk about the England players, I don't know. I just think, let's suppose they're all your brothers and you're going to defend the life out of them. I still say, lads, you're going sideways and backwards too much.
Yeah,
they're just not. There's times when they get the ball and they could just shove somebody in and they do a sideways pass. And to me, when you shove that ball forward, you advance the whole team up the pitch. Yeah. And then players you missed out have the chance to move forward with it. And as a unit, somebody says, I honestly don't think that the players are doing Southgate justice, or he's not telling them to do what's asked. And when you see Graham Jones and that, you see the difference he made. I mean, you three could have made a difference to Steve Bruce this season for me. Like, but I just think that, I don't know. I'm waiting for Graham Jones to say, look, lads, this is what happened in Newcastle. This is what happened when I joined. This is what's happened in England the first 3 games. Now what we're going to do is start attacking. Because I just feel as though somebody needs to kick them up the arse and get the attack and play forward.
The transition's not there. The transition's too slow. The game's too laborious.
They need something to go forward.
The build-up's too slow. They need to move forward. They need to use the wings a little bit more. The fullbacks are pushing on. Yeah. And I pointed this out on Twitter. I thought the fullbacks are pushing on. Yeah. And that was taking the space that the likes of Sterling and Foden were wanting to move into. So then Foden and Sterling and Mount were then concentrating back in the centre. Grealish again. Grealish tried to move out on Tuesday night and into those wing back positions and trying to use it. But again, it's the fullbacks coming in, taking the space, but then doing nothing with it. They're moving into that space, but they're not opening themselves up to play the 1-2s, to play the interactions with each other. And that's a drawback. And that's when you end up with Kane then coming looking for the ball. And when the ball does go into the centre, he's not there because he's already been part of that transition. Yeah. He shouldn't be part of the transitional phase unless you're gonna be a very, very quick break team. And at the moment, we don't look like a quick break team.
Would you drop them, Steve? Would you drop them?
The Germans line up exactly the same as us because we've suddenly gone into a flat back four. And the Germans, that's the way they've been lined up as well. So that's where it's going to be interesting. Will the Germans change to 3 and play wing backs, or will it be Southgate? Will he suddenly switch to a 3? That's what I'm interested in seeing, and I think that's where whoever makes the change, whether they make the change for the better, could be the deciding factor in this game.
Would you drop Kane though? Would you drop Harry Kane?
No, of course I wouldn't, because I don't think there's another striker in there who can get the goals. If you're playing a namby-pamby football,
what he needs to be working on now, between now and the next game, is this conundrum about where Harry Kane's appearing on the pitch.
Yeah.
They need to work out how to keep him in that 18-yard box, not on the halfway line.
I agree with you.
And that's and I'm convinced it's because the guys playing around him are used to having a false 9 who does drop deep, who does drop right off, and so they're giving him little choice by some of the balls they're playing, and then he's wanting to get involved in the game and finding he's coming deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
It's
not working, is it? It's not working.
It isn't. But I think he's committed to this 2 holding midfielders. Yeah. And for me, if Henderson's fit, it's got to be Henderson and Phillips. Phillips is the one for me who I've been impressed with. He's carried the energy that Bielsa's got Leeds playing with into that England team. Yeah. I remember where our drinking is the Leeds lads get into, and they've been in my ear for 2 years now about Phillips. But now I actually start to see what they've been going on about.
Yeah. And that's why I've been impressed with the Italians, because I thought the Italians were playing in the style of football. I thought Mancini's got them almost playing like a Leeds, but he's also got a very, very solid back four. And they're scoring goals for fun as well. They've got 2 great strikers, and they're scoring goals for fun. And their midfields are so, the movement of the Italians has been so good, just like it has with the Dutch, by the way. The Dutch,
I was going to say, my Dutch lads are doing better than them, mate.
Do you think?
They scored more goals. They scored more goals.
But the Dutch are suspect at the back.
No, we're not. That's the difference. We're not. Let's see what happens when we meet in the final.
We will, aye.
Yeah, well, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, I'm sure. Let's see what happens on Tuesday night. We'll wish England all the best, and let's hope they can overcome the Germans and give us a place in the quarterfinals. As always, been an absolutely brilliant show. Steve Hasty, Mitch, and Keith Patterson. Keep those lookalikes and tweets of the week coming in to us on Twitter. And big thank you to Joe Walker, as always, our tune tipster, and keep the trolls. Troll things coming in. I do get sent quite a few trolls of the week, but it tends to be me. I might start branching out, and if you've been trolled, maybe send us your tweets, and I'll get them put up. And this, as you know as well, when you buy your t-shirts from NUFCmatters.com, get a picture. If you bought a t-shirt, a mug, whatever you bought, send a picture in. We'll get you out on the show as well, because it's your support that keeps us going. And don't forget the Facebook page, NUFC Matters. There's a Facebook group, NUFC Matters group. Get yourself onto there. Give us a follow on there. Plenty of interaction on there as well with people who are regulars in the chat. But a big thank you to everybody. Mitch will let you get to bed, because with it being a pre-record, it is quite late. But have a good weekend, lads. See you next week.
See you, lads.
See you, lads.
Take care.
Take
Head back with your critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn.